how I met, married, and got scammed by a gold digger. And I want to back up and give you some details about my life prior to meeting Caesar. I had met my lifelong partner, Brad, back when I was 19 years old. And when I met him, I fell madly in love with him, and we became inseparable. And we were married 2 years later, and we're together for 31 years. We had 3 kids, 3 sons, and we were moving into our early 50s and planning to retire, thinking that at 60 we would retire. And we were already kind of envisioning the life that we wanted to have. In fact, we had also bought a property. We were going to build a new kind of retirement home and had been working with an architect. And I was excited. I was excited about where things were heading. We had been single for 7 years before we had our first child while I was going through grad school, and he helped me with that. And it was probably one of the best parts of our marriage, that single period. So I was looking forward to being retired with him, with our last child gone, and really kind of rekindling the love that we had, the connection we had, because we'd been so busy raising kids and getting on with our career. And I was really looking forward to us shifting. Well, in December of 2014, he started vomiting. And it was weird. I saw one of the incidences. He actually turned gray. I didn't know the body could turn gray. And he got super cold, and then he fell asleep. He got super sleepy. And then it makes me really emotional thinking about this. He would fall asleep, and then when he'd wake up, the nausea had disappeared and he'd feel better. But I knew this was wrong. Something was essentially really wrong. So I urged him to see the doctor. He kept saying, no, it's my diet. I've been eating gluten. I shouldn't. Or I've been, doing something, cheating in things, and I shouldn't be eating, maybe having milk or whatever. And I kept thinking, no, this is not normal. This is not normal. So after a really bad incident where we went to a Christmas party that year, he got super sick. We ended up in the ER, and they didn't find anything. And I was feeling panicked because I could tell something was really, really wrong. So a friend of ours got us into an ENT the day after Christmas, which I just thought was miraculous. And because we couldn't get in, we couldn't get an appointment with a GI guy. We couldn't seem to get an appointment with a GI guy in that little of notice over Christmas. But a friend of ours pulled some strings with a friend of hers and got us into this amazing man. And so we see him, we describe what's going on, and he orders that day an endoscopy to look at what's going on in Brad's stomach and stuff. And I'll never forget that afternoon. They admitted him, and they admitted us to the cancer ward, which I knew was a bad sign. And they said it's one of 5 things, and they mentioned cancer twice. So the next morning, the doctor we'd met, the GI doctor, comes into the room and says, I'm so sorry, Brad. You have terminal cancer. He didn't use the word terminal, but he said you have duodenal cancer. It's in this section. It's going to take this major surgery. You can no longer eat. It's closed off the between the stomach and the intestines. It's now been basically nearly closed, and that's why you're getting so sick. We're going to immediately schedule surgery for you, but I want to let you know I'm sorry. And I remember after the doctor left the room, I went up to Brad and I looked at him, and he looked at me and he said, I'm not going to make it. And I just remember thinking, I don't know what to say to somebody who's just received the worst news of his life. And sure enough, we found out it was stage 3B, and the surgery failed. And by the time he recovered from surgery, he could start chemotherapy. It was already metastasized throughout his entire body. And it was in his liver, might have even been in his brain. He ended up having early Alzheimer's. So my life imploded. I stopped working. That's when I retired. And I started taking care of him full time. And I watched this big, strong man in 5.5 months go from incredibly out golfing, busy, going to the gym every day, to death in 5.5 months. And then, of course, we have kids who are from age of 22 to 17. And how do you prepare your sons to say goodbye for their father for forever? I just felt overwhelmed. And on top of it, Brad developed early dementia. And he's losing his cognitive abilities, losing the ability to add. And eventually, near the end of his life, he lost the ability to speak and lost the ability to write. It was devastating. We had to stop the building project. And it just, everything was imploding on me. My future, my marriage was going to be gone. My last child was leaving the home, and I had just kind of closed my practice, and I didn't feel in the shape to see people. And then this person I had spent my entire life with, that I dearly loved, was leaving me. I felt broken, really broken. So when he passed away, I was shattered. I felt like life had put me in adrift. I didn't fit socially anymore. I felt like the fifth wheel everywhere I went. I no longer could do things as a couple. People felt sorry for me. And that was the other thing that was super hard, was everybody saw me as part of Brad and Carrie. And now I'm just Carrie. And they don't really know me that way. And, it felt so weird, so awkward, so public. So I really wanted the life that I had back. I wanted to get into a relationship with somebody and really recover this thing that I had, this amazing thing that I had. And I would say Brad and my marriage was good. I wouldn't say it was perfect. There was times that I struggled liking him. But we worked things through. And the thing about Brad is that he really had my back. And he was super, super loyal. He was the kind of guy that you could take his word to the bank. If he said to you, I will help you move, and even if he got the flu and was vomiting his guts up, he would still show up and help you move. He was just somebody who, his word was his bond. I remember when he got the cell phone first in our house because work gave him one. And I remember just never even feeling edgy about the cell phone, just feeling like I knew where he was and I knew what he was up to and I knew who he was with. He was just one of those people that what you saw was what you got. So I super, super trusted him. And he made me feel really safe. He and I shared everything. We dreamed our life together. He put me through school and then saw me build my practice. He'd encouraged me to start writing. And, he just was one of these people that sort of championed me. And so whenever we made plans, we made them openly and together. We had a joint financial account and, we even structured how we spent money. So there wasn't any surprises. It was just a really trusting relationship. And rightly or wrongly, I just thought that's what relationships look like. I thought that that's what people wanted when they went into a relationship. They wanted that kind of vulnerability and intimacy. So when I got out and when I ended up being widowed, I just felt really tossed out, really bereft, but hopeful that maybe I could find that kind of love again. That I believe that kind of person existed, that I could find somebody who really wanted to share my life and make plans and be financially, share our life financially together. So here's the other piece though. Brad and I had a large life insurance that actually I was the one that took it out on him and took one out on me because I knew that, it would be expensive if I got caught without a partner raising kids and with a mortgage that I had. And the other thing is his work left him a really good retirement or, retirement or death benefits. So he left me financially independent. And that was strange. It felt really weird to go from worried about how many shoes I had and if I could afford clothes and, how to manage Christmas budget to suddenly not have to think about those things. Now, it wasn't like I could go do whatever I wanted. I couldn't spend money like that, but it left me at least comfortable. But the feeling of that shift was weird, was really strange to go from very thoughtful to now being a little more not so careful. And so it was set awkwardly with me. I didn't really know. I just felt really strange. So there was another error is I just didn't understand how to handle this change in my financial status. But that's a little bit of background. I think the one other thing to understand about me is I'm autistic. So I'm not always good seeing duplicity and deception. Sometimes I tend to be a little too literal and I don't like deception. I'm not good at it. I can't do it. It actually physically hurts me. I kind of assumed that was true for everybody. And I didn't know that it wasn't until I found out that it wasn't. So there's some background to me and my life leading up to meeting Caesar.